The Dragon's Three Heads. Every Targaryen in the Night of the Seven Kingdoms explained. Blood of the Dragons before the Game of Thrones. Welcome back, Chroniclers of Westeros. With HBO's The Night of the Seven Kingdoms soaring onto screens in January 2026, the fires of the old blood are stirring once more. But before Donk the Lunk and his Squire Egg take their first steps towards legend, we must first understand the family that shaped their world, the last dragons of House Targaryen. This is the age of the Hedge Knight, a story set roughly 90 years before Game of Thrones, long after dragons vanquished from the skies, but their shadows still darken the realm below. The realm stands in a fragile peace, rebuilt in the wake of the first Blackfyre Rebellion, a civil war that split dragon against dragon, brother against brother. At his heart sits King Daeron II, known to history as Daeron the Good. His dream of unity and peace brought dawn into the realm. His bloodline scatters across three great seats of power: the Red Keep, the Island of Dragonstone, and the Palace of Summerhall. And in the shadows of the Iron Throne, another figure watches: Brynden Rivers, better known as Bloodraven, the King's Spy Master. His whispers are said to have 1,000 voices and one. But Bloodraven's tale belongs to the next chapter, the days of the Sworn Sword. For now we turn to the royal heart of King's Landing, where the flame still burns bright and dangerous. Part 1. The Royal Line, House Targaryen of the Red Keep. Upon the Iron Throne sits King Daeron II Targaryen, fourth son of Aegon IV, and first true peacemaker since Jaehaerys the Conciliator. Daeron's reign is one of reconciliation. Where his father Aegon the Unworthy ruled through excess and spite, Daeron rules through patience and diplomacy. He weds Princess Maria Martell of Dawn, ending centuries of war by joining sun to fire. Not through conquest, but through marriage and blood. Yet this peace comes at a price. Many in Westeros view his Dornish ties as a weakness. The old lords of the Reach and the Stormlands still whisper of Daemon Blackfyre, the half-brother who once bore Blackfyre, the sword of Aegon the Conqueror, and rose against him. Though that rebellion ended in blood, its shadow still looms over the court. Daeron's sons and grandsons grew up in a realm divided by loyalty and memory. His eldest living son and heir, Prince Baelor Targaryen, called Breakspear, serves as hand of the king, a warrior, scholar, and statesman, beloved by the small folk and nobility alike. His other sons follow their own path: the devout Prince Aerys, the unstable Prince Rhaegal, and Prince Maekar, the warrior lord who will one day rule Summerhall. Around them orbit the next generation, princes with tempers of fire and dreams of dragons. Among them, infamous Prince Aerion Brightflame, proud, cruel, and convinced that dragon blood makes him divine. At Ashford Meadow, it is Aerion who sparks the conflict that will define the Hedge Knight, and in doing so, mark the slow unraveling of his house. Under Daeron's reign, the Targaryens remain outwardly strong, but within their own family, rivalries smolder. Each branch of the royal line begins to drift apart, each ruled by its own vision of what Targaryens should be. For now, the Red Keep still holds power, but the dragon's wings are beginning to tear. Part 2. House Targaryen of Summerhall. South of King's Landing, where the Stormlands meet the Dornish Marches, lies a palace of white stone and golden domes, Summerhall. Born from peace yet destined for tragedy, Summerhall was built during King Daeron II's reign as a symbol of unity. A royal retreat to commemorate the marriage between House Targaryen and House Martell. The site once marked the border between two warring realms, the Stormlands and Dawn, where thousands died in centuries of bloodshed. Daeron raised the new palace there, not as a fortress, but as a promise that fire and sun could share the same sky. Yet, even within some halls, shadows lingered. Daeron had granted the keep to his third son, Prince Maekar, a man as hard and unbending as the anvil he bore on his sigil. Where his brother Baelor was the shining jewel of the dynasty, Maekar was its iron edge. Stern, proud, and martial to the core, Summerhall became a reflection of its master, disciplined, quiet, and simmering with restrained fury. It was Maekar who commanded the royal armies along the Dornish marches, keeping the peace his father had forged. But even peace can breed resentment. Maekar's sons were as different from each other as dragons from men, each marked by the vital nature of their bloodline. Prince Daeron Targaryen, the drunkard. The eldest, Prince Daeron, was plagued by dragon dreams, prophetic visions of fire, flight, and death. In those dreams he saw ruin, and from them he sought escape at the bottom of the wine cup. His brothers called him weak, his father ashamed, yet Daeron's dreams carried a terrible truth. And as for he dreams of dunk and death, of wings beating over fire, and his visions, dismissed as madness, foretell the tragedy to come. The small folk whisper that Daeron was the dream of the realm ignored. Prince Aerion Targaryen, Brightflame. The second son, Prince Aerion Brightflame, could not be more different. Beautiful, cruel, and utterly convinced of his own divinity, Aerion believed the blood of the dragon set him above mortal law. At Ashford Meadow, his arrogance turns deadly when he attacks the Dornish puppeteer Tenzal Tutor for mocking dragonkind, sparking the chain of events that leads to the Trial of Seven. Aerion's madness would grow in the years that followed. In time, he would meet his end drinking wildfire, believing it would turn him into a dragon. In the end, the old Velaryon arrogance of House Targaryen burned its hottest and its most destructively within Aerion. Prince Aegon Targaryen, Egg. The youngest Prince Aegon could not be more unlike his brothers, barefooted, bold-headed, and hungry for adventure. The boy we would come to know as Egg hides his identity as a squire for the Hedge Knight Sir Duncan the Tall. This journey along Dunk becomes one of the most important relationships in Westeros' history, one that teaches the Targaryen prince humility, honor, and the lives of those his family so often forgets. In the years to come, Egg will rise from a nameless squire to the Iron Throne itself, ruling as King Aegon V Targaryen, remembered in history as Aegon the Unlikely. But that story is for another day. Prince Aemon Targaryen, the Scholar. There was yet another son, Prince Aemon, the third of Maekar's brood. Aemon turned away from courtly games and ambitions of his kin, choosing the life of a scholar. He sailed to Old Town to forge his chain at the Citadel, studying medicine, history, and prophecy. To most, he would be forgotten, until nearly a century later, when an old man of the Night's Watch, Maester Aemon, would reveal his true name to Jon Snow at Castle Black. I was a Targaryen once, he says. My brothers were kings. The Sons of Summerhall. The House of Summerhall embodies the contradictions of the Targaryen name. Noble and monstrous, wise and mad. Maekar's sons stand as living proof that the dragon's blood burns too hot for peace to endure. From the line would come both the most beloved and most tragic Targaryens. Egg, who would become king, Aemon, who would turn away from it, and the Aerion whose madness would one day haunt them all and consume himself. For now, the fire still flickers quietly in Summerhall, a palace born for peace, waiting for its destiny to burn. Bar 3. House Targaryen of Dragonstone. Across the Blackwater Bay, rising from the mists of the narrow sea, lies Dragonstone, the ancient seat of House Targaryen. Long before Aegon's conquest, the fortress was their first home in Westeros, a monument built of black basalt, carved in the shape of dragons. And though the dragons themselves were long gone by this era, their memory lingered, in the stone, in the sea air, and in the minds of those who dwelled there. During the reign of King Daeron II, Dragonstone was no longer the fiery cradle of conquest, a place of study, governance, and royal blood, ruled by the king's eldest son and heir, Prince Baelor Targaryen, known to history as Baelor Breakspear. Prince Baelor Breakspear Targaryen, the heir apparent. Prince Baelor Breakspear was everything the realm could hope for in an heir. Tall, gallant, and unyieldingly just, he was a warrior as skilled as his uncle, Aemon the Dragon Knight, and a statesman as wise as his father, Daeron. He earned his name at the Battle of the Redgrass Fields, where his leadership and valor helped end the First Blackfyre Rebellion. Yet despite his triumphs, Baelor carried the subtle stain of his Dornish mother's blood. To some lords of the Reach and the Stormlands, his blood was too Dornish, too foreign for the Iron Throne. In court and tourney alike, Baelor stood as both heir and reminder of the divisions that still haunted the realm. As Hand of the King, Baelor ruled in his father's stead, his word law across the Seven Kingdoms. He kept his family's often feuding branches in balance, his brother Maekar in Summerhall, his cousins in King's Landing, and his sons on Dragonstone. But all peace must shatter. At Ashford Tourney, Baelor's sense of justice compels him to defend the accused Hedge Knight Sir Duncan the Tall against his own kin. The trial of 7 that follows seals his fate, as Baelor Breakspear dies not by treachery, but by tragic chance. His death will mark the beginning of the Targaryen dynasty's slow and steady unraveling. Prince Valar Targaryen, the shining sun. Of Baelor's children, Prince Valar stood foremost, a mirror of his father's beauty and poise. Valar was polished and princely, courteous at court, and formidable in the lists, and confident in his own right to one day inherit both Dragonstone and the Iron Throne. At Ashford Meadow, Valar represents the royal family, observing the joust beside his uncles and cousins. His presence there underscores the political weight of the tourney, a stage where every blow of a lance carries whispers of succession. When his father falls, Valar's grief curdles into anger. His words to Sir Duncan still echo through the ages. My father was only 9 and 30. He had it in him to be a great king, the greatest since Aegon the Dragon. Why would the gods take him and leave you? Valar would never inherit the crown. When the great spring sickness sweeps through King's Landing years later, he and his brothers perish, extinguishing Baelor's entire line in a single stroke. Prince Mataris Targaryen, the quiet brother. Baelor's younger son, Prince Mataris, lived in the shadow of his brilliant father and proud brother. Known to be gentle and unassuming, Prince Mataris left little mark on history. The Maesters say he was kind-hearted, perhaps too much so for courtly life. He too would fall to the Great Spring Sickness, another casualty of a dynasty already beginning to devour itself. Their deaths left the throne open to Baelor's surviving brothers, and began to slowly descend towards civil unrest, succession crises, and the eventual birth of the Blackfyre Pretenders across the Narrow Sea. Prince Aerys Targaryen, the Scholar. Among the eldest sons of King Daeron II stood Prince Aerys, later King Aerys I Targaryen. Unlike his brothers, Aerys preferred scroll. He was a dreamer and a seeker of hidden truths, consumed by prophecies and ancient Valyrian histories, and the riddles of dragons that no longer were. As king, he would be more scholar than ruler, leaving the governance of the realm largely to his hand, none other than Brendan Rivers, Bloodraven himself. Together they ruled during a time of shadows and whispers, as rebellions flickered across the land and rumors of prophecy began to stir once more. But in this era, the time of the Hedge Knight, Aerys remained simply a prince on Dragonstone, quiet, contemplative, and watching his brother's lines crumble before him. Prince Rhaegal Targaryen, the Mad Prince. The king's other surviving son, Prince Rhaegal, was remembered for his ancestries. Some say he danced naked through the halls of the Red Keep, others that he talked to unseen friends and ate only pickled eels. Madness runs deep in dragon's blood, and in Rhaegal, it flowed early. Despite his instability, he briefly held the title of Prince of Dragonstone after Baelor's death, though the council quickly turned their eyes towards more stable heirs. His line too would fall, leaving the Iron Throne vulnerable to the very bastards and distant kin it had once cast aside. So stands the royal family of the era, divided between Dragonstone, Summerhole, and the Red Keep. One branch burns too bright, the other too cold, and another turns inward, lost to prophecy and pride. Yet all three are bound by the same curse, the belief that dragons can rule men forever. The Hedge world of lords, commoners, and humble knights like Dunk is one where that illusion begins to crack. These princes and kings-to-be, with all their power and madness, will one day forge the path that leads to fire, to rebellion, and to the final fall of their house. Part 4. The Lumen Blackfyre Line. Exiled, but still coming. While the banners of red and gold still flew proudly above King's Landing, across the narrow sea a different dragon stirred in exile. For the Blackfyres, the Shadow Dynasty born of rebellion, were far from extinguished. To understand the world of the Knights of the Seven Kingdoms, you must first understand the Blackfyre curse, a feud of families so bitter its flames would smolder for 5 generations. The origin of division, Daemon Blackfyre. The Blackfyre line began with Daemon Waters, bastard son of King Aegon IV Targaryen, Aegon the Unworthy. Aegon, in his folly, legitimized all his bastards upon his deathbed. Among them was Daemon, a tall, noble youth who bore Velaryon features, truer than most true-born princes. Daemon, in fact, was truer than most, his mother also being a Targaryen. But Aegon did more than grant him a name. He gave him Blackfyre, the ancestral sword of Aegon the Conqueror, a symbol of kingship itself. To give that blade to a bastard was to divide the realm in two. When Daeron II ascended the Iron Throne, half the realm whispered that the true king was Daemon, the warrior who had the sword, the charisma, and the blood. Daemon rose in rebellion, proclaiming himself king underneath a new banner. Black dragon on a field of red, a mirror of the royal sigil inverted, as if the realm itself had begun to turn upside down. His war consumed Westeros for a year. The first Blackfyre rebellion, a tragedy that left brothers, cousins, and sons buried on both sides of the Redgrass fields. Daemon Blackfyre himself fell at the final battle, slain by his half-brother Brynden Rivers, the infamous Bloodraven. Bloodraven's archers cut Daemon down as he fought beneath his banners, his twin sons beside him. Yet even in death, Daemon's cause refused to fade. His surviving sons Haegon and Aenys and Daemon II fled across the narrow sea to the free cities, where they plotted vengeance for their followers, calling them the true dragons. There in the slums and sellsword camps of Tyrosh and Lys, the seeds of future rebellions were sown. The Blackfyre bastards and Bittersteel. But no rebellion endures without its steel. Daemon's closest ally, his half-brother Aegor Rivers, known as Bittersteel, carried the cause forward. While Bloodraven ruled King's Landing as Hand of the King and Master of Whisperers, Bittersteel fled with Daemon's sword, Blackfyre itself, to found the Golden Company, the most famous band of sellswords in Essos. Their vow was clear: beneath the gold, the bitter steel. The Blackfyre claim would burn on, and every generation would rise in rebellion again. Each time weaker, but each time bloodier and bolder. Daemon II Blackfyre, the Fiddler's Shadow. During the Hedge Night, the Blackfyre cause remains distant, spoken of only in rumors, but its echoes already reach Westeros. In taverns among tourney camps, whispers spread of a dragon across the water, gathering swords and gold for another attempt at the Iron Throne. That man was Daemon II Blackfyre, the second son of Daemon the Pretender, known later as Jon the Fiddler. Though he does not appear in the Hedge Knight, he will cast shadow in the Sworn Sword and the Mystery Knight, where Dunk and Egg find themselves entangled in secret plots of this exiled prince and his followers. Blackfyre claim is the storm behind the storm, unseen yet ever approaching. The world of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is a realm suspended between two dragons, the red dragon of King Daeron's rightful line, and the black dragon of Daemon's bitter legacy. On one side, peace, law, and diplomacy. On the other, passion, pride, and vengeance. And between them stands the small folk, knights, squires, and dreamers like Sir Duncan and Young Egg, whose lives will be shaped and often destroyed by wars fought over crowns and colours. Though unseen at Ashford, the Blackfyre heirs wait across the water, and when they return, they will bring the next generation of Dunk and Egg's story, and the next step in the downfall of House Targaryen itself. Part 5. Themes of division in the Targaryen dynasty. No dynasty in Westeros burns as brightly or as briefly as House Targaryen. By the time of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the dragons are gone, their bones resting in the crypts beneath the Red Keep. Yet the fire remained, burning not from dragon flame, but from within the family itself. The Targaryens of this era are not one house, but three. The Red Keep, where King Daeron rules in peace, his Dornish queen at his side, seeking unity after the Blackfyre Wars. Dragonstone, seat of the Royal Heirs, a palace of prophecy and memory, where scholars like Prince Aerys and dreamers like Rhaegal turn their gaze backward, toward days of dragons. And Summerhall, a warm palace of Prince Maker and his sons, built to symbolize peace between Dornish and the crown, yet destined to become a palace of tragedy. Each branch reflects a different legacy of Velaryon, the ruler, the mystic, the warrior. Together they form a dragon with 3 heads. But each now turns in a different direction. Across the narrow sea, the black dragon awaits, the exiled cousins who mirror the royal line in every way. Their claim, their pride, and their pain serve as a dark reflection of Daeron's peace. It's easy to see the wars of the dragons as distant, but the truth is that every Targaryen from Baelor Breakspear to Young Egg lives under that shadow. Even at Ashford Meadow, when knights joust and lords feast, whispers of rebellion linger like ghosts. For all their silver hair and royal blood, the Targaryens are haunted by the same truth. Their greatest enemy is always themselves. In this world of princes and prophecies, Dunk and Egg stand apart. Dunk, a common-born Hedge knight, serves as the mirror through which we see the dragons as not legends but as people. And Egg, the boy who will one day be king, sees for the first time the cost of pride, cruelty and privilege, by meaning of justice. Together they bridge the divide between the highborn and the low, between dragonfire and earth. They remind us that every Targaryen legacy is not just forged by fire and blood, but also in friendship, humility, and the dream of something better. When we look back at this era, peaceful on the surface but trembling beneath, we can already see the first cracks in the dragon's scales. The fall of Baelor Breakspear, the madness of Aerion Brightflame, and the omens that follow Young Egg. The same family that once united Westeros will, in time, tear it apart again, from the flames of Summerhall to the ashes of King's Landing. The tale of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms isn't just about knights and honor. It's about how even the noblest blood can be poisoned by prophecy, pride, and power. So, when we speak of the Targaryens of this era, the kings and heirs of the Red Keep, the princes of Summerhall, the scholars of Dragonstone, and the rebels across the sea, we are really speaking of one family, divided by fire. And though their dragons may be gone, their shadows still stretch across the Seven Kingdoms, from Dunk's humble oath to Egg's crown and beyond. The Age of Dragons had ended, but its echoes were only just beginning. In So Chronicles of Westeros, we close the chapter on the dragons of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. the Red Keep to Summerhold, from Dragonstone to the far shores of exile. Every living Targaryen carries both the burden and blessing of fire. Their wings no longer fill the skies, but their choices and their blood will shape the wars and kings to come. But tell me, when dragons rule without dragons, is their fire still enough to hold the realm together? Valar Dohaeris.